Over the course of my broadcasting career and during my time hosting the Inner Circle podcast, I've had the privilege of moderating and being a guest on a number of panels. I was part of one just a few weeks ago, and one of the women that were on the panel has been a guest on many other panels I've been a part of, or if I was emceeing, she was always showing up. She just keeps popping up in my life in a variety of capacities, so much so it was like the universe was trying to get my attention by saying, Carrie, listen, there's a story here. And I always saw it in her, but I'm glad that the universe brought her back into my life again. She oozes wisdom about business because she has lived and learned every single aspect of the family business. She and her sister took over the family company a number of years ago. She was very young. It's called Paris Jewelers, and grew that company into a multi-million-dollar business with 25 stores in 3 provinces. Friends, get out your pen. There are great takeaways in this journey. I'm so thrilled to finally welcome the amazing Chau Lui to the Inner Circle today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so grateful that we finally get an opportunity to sit down and chat in this capacity, because I've always been intrigued with your story and wondered how you got to where you were, but we've never seemed to have the time. We're always rushing in different directions.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm really grateful to be here today with you.
Okay, let's dig right into things, and I always like to start about how it all came to be, and I know that it really starts with your mom and dad. They did not grow up in Canada. Tell me a bit about their story.
Yes, so my parents immigrated from Vietnam, and they came to Canada just in search of a better life for our family. You know, so when they came here, they didn't have very much at all, and we ended up in Edmonton, Alberta.
Why Edmonton? Do you know why?
We had some family here.
Oh, okay.
So that worked, and they did everything that they could do to make ends meet. They worked odd jobs all the time, 2 or 3 jobs at the same time. They were janitors at the CN Tower. They worked at parking lots. They did everything. And at the same time, they didn't know how to speak English, so they were also going to English as a second language classes. So we saw them work hard, you know, growing up. This is just what we were used to, and we saw it. And a couple years later, they had the opportunity to start working at a jewelry store, which is now a competitor's jewelry store, and train as goldsmiths. So they did that, and
I'm going to pause you right there. How old were you then when you came over to Canada? Were you born then in Vietnam?
No, I was 2.5 years old, and my sister was 6 months.
Oh my gosh! Yes. So you probably don't have any recollection of that when you first arrived here.
We don't have any recollection of it. I think as we got older, and we knew that they just worked really hard all the time.
Okay, let's go back to the goldsmith. They had an opportunity there, so pick it up there.
Yeah, so they had an opportunity and to open a small, really modest store in St. Albert, Alberta. It was 400 square feet, so no computers, every single piece of jewelry, very little jewelry. We had handwritten tags on it, and they opened the store, and they kind of took a huge chance. And at the time, they still didn't know how to speak English well. So what they did was they bought a Vietnamese English dictionary. So when customers would come in, they would pull out the dictionary, and that's how they would communicate and translate with customers.
You said something that intrigued me, but you said with handwritten tags on it. Why is that a big deal?
Because it takes a lot of time. So imagine every piece of jewelry comes in, you get a handwrite the tag, which was okay with one store, but it takes time. And you know, they did everything. They didn't have employees, so it was them working 9 to 9 every single day, and they did it with so much joy and with so much gratitude.
That's so interesting. So they had no idea how to run like anything about jewelry, but yet took the training for it, right?
Yeah, they did, and they learned, and that's how our very first store came to be.
Okay, so working hard. Just describe what you remember at that age. How old were you? And you said 9 to 9, like
all the time. 9 to 9, 9 to 10, 9 to 11. They were goldsmiths, so they would help customers during the day, and then when the store closed, they would actually stay and do the goldsmithing work, size rings, solder chains. So they were in the store quite a bit.
Where were you and your sister during this time?
You know what? So our grandma came with us. So our grandma raised us, but we were at the mall a lot. We joke that we were mall rats. we would go to the mall after, go to St. Albert Center, and we would do our homework and then eat in the food court, and we would wander around that place like it was the best place ever.
Really? So you loved it. I guess it became your normal, right?
It absolutely became our normal. So we were just there all the time.
Was your grandma then at the store?
No, she was at home. So sometimes we'd come to the store. Sometimes when we were at home, we'd stay with grandma.
Did you love being in the store when you were little?
I did. I would love looking at it. I would love watching them interact with customers. We made friends with a lot of the people who also had stores in the mall, so they just kind of knew us. So
it's like you were one giant family.
Yes, we were.
And so your mom and dad, did they love having you around as well? It's like you grew up in that business.
Yeah, they loved having us around. And I remember growing up, we would always try to help. So when there was a big sale going on, because we didn't have, there wasn't any employees, it was just them, we would make the sale signs. So we would go to, I think, Shoppers Drug Mart at the time and buy these big pieces of Bristol board, and we would write the sale signs with Jiffy markers. It was so much fun. I remember doing that.
Wow.
And they would put them up in the store.
And proud of them, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So you were young, did they teach you the ropes of business? What did they teach you at that age that you can remember?
I think at that age, it was just about working hard, and nothing in life that's worth having is going to be free. You're going to have to work hard for it. And I think it was a really important lesson.
Did you do any activities, Chau, while you were growing up?
I didn't do a lot. I think in the earlier days when I was really young, I didn't do a lot, didn't take swimming or do any of the things that my kids do now. But I remember doing gymnastics for about a year, and then when we got older, we did piano. Not a lot of activities growing up.
So you're in the store, you're helping out. Did you help translate for your mom and dad? Because they had that dictionary, which is extraordinary to me.
I didn't help translate. I think
because you grew up speaking English, right?
Yes, I grew up speaking English, absolutely, in school. But I didn't help them translate. I think when we were at a young age, we just hung around and we just had fun and we walked around the mall. And I remember so vividly, we didn't have a lot growing up. And
when you say we didn't have a lot, what do you mean by that?
Well, you know what? I think we had to be frugal. I mean, coming from Vietnam, we didn't have a lot of extravagant things in life. I didn't grow up having, big birthday parties. I actually don't think I had any growing up. So we lived a very humble life, and I think it was really great for us. And so one of the things that we didn't do a lot growing up was we didn't get to go to movies or things like that. So every time I'd see a Disney trailer for a new movie, I'd be like, oh my gosh, it would be so amazing to go and see that. And I remember this so vividly. Trang and I were walking around the Bay, which was very close to our store. And it was about the time that Beauty and the Beast cartoon came out, and they were playing it in the Bay in one of the sections. So what we would do after we did our homework and had our dinner is we would go to the Bay and we would stand there. We would stand in the middle of that, the kids section, and we would watch Beauty and the Beast. And once it was over, we would go find the sales lady and be like, it's done. Can you rewind it? Because it was VHS. Oh. Can we watch it again? And that's how we would watch our Disney cartoons growing up. So I really appreciate that lady she kept rewinding it for us, sometimes 3 or 4 times in a day.
You must have known her name or something if you were in there enough times, right?
I don't remember her name, but I caught on that if they were playing those movies, that's how we're going to watch them. We're just going to go to the Bay.
That's so creative. And you seemed like you were okay with that. Did you not ever feel like hard done by because your parents couldn't take you out and do those extravagant things?
No, I think that... No, I didn't feel like that at all. I mean, things changed as we got older, but I felt like we just had fun.
Oh, Chau, I love that story. You made your own fun and chose to have fun doing it.
Yeah, and what helped was I had my sister with me, right? I was never alone. I was always with my sister. So
Age difference? What, a couple?
2 years.
Yes, I thought so. Okay, so you grow up together, and then high school, and what happens post high school? And were you working at the store? Like, when did you officially start working, and were you ever paid a wage?
I started working at the store and helping out during Christmas. When I was 15 years old, I'd help with customers. I was kind of a sponge. I would see someone doing something that was really great, and I would just follow them around, and I'd want them to teach me how they would set sell or interact with customers. So I started in the store when I was 15, just a couple shifts a week, just working. I don't remember getting paid a wage. And I would just, I would just help out and help customers. It was just a lot of fun. It was so much fun being a part of that journey with a customer. We know that they pick out jewelry to celebrate these moments, and to be a part of that, I thought was really special.
It is, but to be able to convince you, but it seems like it all came from within. Your mom and dad didn't say you have to do this or you should. Like, how did they empower you like that? Was it by leading by example?
Yeah, I think my mom really led by example. We took her, we have the saying, and it's, my mom's name is Tu, and it's, what would Tu do? And, I just thought, they're really busy. I should just go and help. I have time. I'm just going to go and help. And I learned a lot. It was a gift. Yeah.
Wow. So 15, you're working in the store.
Yes.
And then what happens when you graduate high school?
So after high school, I thought, I'm just going to take a break, and I'm just going to work in the business, and I'm going to learn. At that point, we were growing quite a bit, and I'm
still in one store?
No, at that time we had 10 stores.
Oh my goodness. When did that expansion happen?
So after the first store in St. Albert, they're doing really well. It was getting busy, and they were putting away the Vietnamese English dictionary, and the mall called and said, do you want to open another store in the same mall? And at first they were like, no, one store is more than we could have ever dreamed of coming here from Vietnam. But they took that chance, and they opened another store, and that's how our second store in the same mall came to be. Okay. So at that point, they had to hire people, because you can't run two stores with just two people. So they started to hire people, some really amazing people. And one of the people that were hired was somebody named Glenda, who's still with our company today.
Really? So that's how many years?
She's been with us almost 27 years.
That's extraordinary.
So she's amazing, and she's one of the biggest mentors in my life. And so after they had the two stores, things were going pretty good. I don't think we had a computer system yet. For sure, we didn't have a marketing team or anything like that. It was still a small business.
Still handwriting the tags?
Yeah, still handwriting those tags, just a lot more tags. I don't think I was allowed to help with that, but, And then something extraordinary happened. We got a phone call from a mall in Red Deer. And they said, okay, do you want to open a store in Red Deer? And they were like, no. We can't do that because, we live in St. Albert. We want to do business in St. Albert. It's easy for us. It's a 5-minute drive. But it was a really amazing mall and a really amazing opportunity. I think they just jumped in and they took that chance. And for that first year in Red Deer, I remember they would get in the car and they would drive an hour and 45 minutes every single day to get there at 9, open the store.
What? Stay
until 9 and drive home. Every day for a year. And they did it with pleasure and pride and joy. They were just so happy to have that opportunity.
There's lots of takeaways in that, like the hard work that they endured over the years. What an example that set for you.
Yes.
So while they're doing that, are you running one of the stores now?
No, I wasn't running the store. So while they were still growing the business, I think this was I was at a younger age. So when I joined the company, we were at 10 stores. And when I joined, I wanted to be really intentional about learning the business. And thinking back, I didn't want anyone to think that I was at the company or in this role just because of who I was, right? It's really easy to be typecast as that, and I really wanted to be careful about that. So I said, I don't want a title, I don't want a position, I don't want a role. I'm going to come and I'm really going to learn the business. So what I did was I started in reception, and then I worked through every single aspect and department of the company. So I didn't put a time frame on it. I stayed there long enough so that I could learn. So it could have been 3 months, could have been 6 months, but I did that. And I think it took me about a little bit over 2 years to really learn everything.
That's extraordinary. Were your mom and dad both involved in every aspect of the company, or was that Glenda?
You know what? They were both involved. Glenda was involved. We had a lot of other amazing people too that really helped us along the way. And that's how I kind of learned. I asked a lot of questions. I would get in and learn, but not just learn, I would do it. So I would do the job. So when I was in shipping, I would do the shipping for a couple months, and I really learned and thought, okay, this is working, this is not working, how could we improve it? So that was my first 2 years in the company.
Wow. So where did you go from there after you completed that?
After that, we were just in expansion mode. So I would learn how to, talk to malls and learn what it took to open a store. So, from step one all the way to when the doors open. So that's what I worked on.
Who are you learning that from? Because oftentimes you're going to post-secondary school and you're going to, tech schools where they give you some of those tools. Who was it, Glenda? Or you learned just by being around it? That's huge.
I learned by being around it. I read everything I could. I think reading is such a gift. I learned everything that I could, and I asked a lot of questions, and I made a lot of mistakes along the way, like a ton. So
I'm going to talk to you about mistakes later, but I need to know about this expansion mode. Were opportunities coming to you, or were you seeking them out? Because you explained how Red Deer happened, but how do you expand at that rate, and how did all that come to fruition?
So as we were opening stores, we actually hired on, a leasing agent that took care of those opportunities. When an opportunity would come our way, we were in expansion mode, we would take it, and then we would just go with it. And that's how all of that happened. So sometimes our leasing agent would reach out, sometimes the opportunities would come our way. So it worked both ways.
Do you know over what course of time you went from 1 store to 25 stores?
Well, it took, we've been around for over 30 years, so it took a lot of time. But there was 1 year that we opened a lot of stores, and we opened 5 in a year.
Oh my gosh.
And that was in 2010.
What was that like?
You know what? That was one of the most challenging years for myself and my sister. We call it the year of 2010. That's how we talk about it. I look back now with fondness, but at the time. So imagine, we're still a small company where, we're accustomed in our heads, and I think it's the way I grew up, that we want to do more with less. So we don't have huge teams. We're very hands-on still. I don't know if that's good or bad. It's just the truth. And so imagine every 2 months, you're negotiating with a mall, you're getting that lease, then you have to design a store, you have to secure enough product to open that store, you have to hire a team, a manager, employees, you have to train them, you have to figure out a community, and then you have to figure out how to make connections in that community, and then you have to open the store. You have to have a grand opening, and then you have to sustain that and train the staff. So we did that 5 times in 1 year.
In the same province? Or
in different provinces. We were in Alberta, we were in Ontario, we were everywhere. We were in BC.
How were the stress levels during that time?
It was really stressful. And I want to be transparent about that. We fell a lot in that year. And that was a year we learned a lot about ourselves. And I think in that year, if I'm being honest, our company lost its soul a little bit because of the expansion. So what we pride ourselves on is we're a family business and we're connected to our people. I have to say in that year, we were not connected to our people.
Wow.
We were just expanding so fast.
I love the level of vulnerability that you're sharing here, because I think as business owners and as entrepreneurs, we have to be able to learn from one another, and this is important. So some of the mistakes that you made that year.
So, I think every mall is different, and when we were opening, they would want different things. And we didn't slow down to properly scale our business. So if we want the experience to be great, we have to ensure that our people are set up for that. So in 2010, we continued to open. 2011, I think we opened another 2 stores. So we're continuing to expand.
Yes.
So something happened that made me really stop. It's one of those moments in your life where you're like, okay, this is not right. So
do you mind going there?
Yeah, let's go there. Every single year we have a holiday party, and we want to make it really great for our employees. They make our business. And we fly out our managers, and then we have it in Edmonton because, that's where we started. Right. So everybody's invited, and they can bring their spouses, and we want to make sure it's really special. So every single person that comes, whether with their spouse or on their own, they leave with, a little jewelry gift from us as an early Christmas present. And then we do draws for, bigger gifts. So at the party, after dinner, and everybody's, walking around and mingling and we have a dance, I had somebody come up to me and say, Chau, I won the Citizen Diamond watch. I don't like it. Can I exchange it? So I got, to be honest, I was mad.
Yeah. Wow.
I didn't want to show that I was mad, but I said, you know what, I can't exchange it. So I recommended that they donate it because there's a lot of people that do not receive gifts on Christmas.
That's right.
Okay, so that happened and I was like, okay, I shrugged it off. And then somebody else came up to me and said, Chau, I got a bracelet. I don't love it. Can you exchange it? And I was like,
wow.
2 times? Okay, this is not right.
I'm going to agree with you on that. It isn't right. You should be grateful for any sort of beautiful gift that comes into your life.
So then I was getting angrier as the night went on. I didn't say anything to my sister. We just had the party. And then somebody else came up to me about something and they didn't like where they were seated. So I was like, okay, this party is just it's not great. So I go home that night. I don't sleep at all and I really think about it. And I came to this one realization. I stopped being mad. And I just thought, when we are pointing the finger at somebody else, we're actually pointing 3 at ourselves. So I took a long, hard look in the mirror and I said, what have I done as a leader in this organization to say, these are our values, these are our expectations, and these are the behaviors we want you to exhibit at our company? I could not answer that question.
Okay.
So I called my sister and I said, okay, let's talk. And we went through it all. And we said, we have not defined this. I don't know if we've set up our people to win as we've grown and lost focus. So we made a decision, and the decision was we would not open another store. We would not say yes to anything until we did what was right and built a foundation and went back to what are our values, what are our beliefs, what's our vision, what's our mission, why do we matter in this world? That was very hard because as entrepreneurs, you want to just say yes and do all the fun, shiny things.
Yeah.
And we didn't put a time frame on it. So we took, it's probably about 1.5 to 2 years to figure that out. And we focused on what mattered to us. And then after we figured out our values and our beliefs and really worked on that, we went on a journey to implement training for all of our stores to set them up to succeed.
Wow. So that was identifying your core values, and that became part of any onboarding process for a new employee?
Absolutely.
How did it change your company?
It changed everything. Looking back, so we took about 6 months to do that. Like that was long. But when you're going back and going through your business as you've grown and not thought about all the little things, it turned into something so much bigger. It turned into looking at our, every single process and what we did in the company. Having values really determined who we hired, who we wanted to work with. And we want all these things. We want a great experience. We want people that are engaged. But if they are not aligned with what our company believes, they can't do that. So we started that, took about 6 months. It changed a lot in our company. And then after we had our values and our beliefs and everything set, then we started working on the training.
Wow. It's so powerful. I'm so glad you told that story that you said the first thing, we got angry, which I was angry with you listening to it because I grew up with very little. It wasn't like birthday parties where there was an odd one here or there for me, but being the youngest of 10, I got hand-me-downs all the time. It was my reality. So if I got any sort of a gift, it was cue the marching band. Let's have a celebration here. But remarkable that the first thing that after you're dealing with this anger, you look in the mirror and think, what am I doing wrong here? Where does that come from? And is that all part of your training? That's so important. It's a huge entrepreneurial lesson. And I'm learning that now by doing. But it's taken me a long time to get there. Is that normal part of the journey?
Oh, no, it wasn't normal because at the end of the day, I knew it wasn't my fault, but I knew it was my responsibility. So regardless of whose fault it was or who I was upset at for being ungrateful, it's my responsibility, still my company.
And that bottom line, you have to take ownership for everything,
Yes.
right? I
Yeah.
got to ask the frivolous question. How did you deal with the complaints? Whatever happened there? Go back, the one that didn't like the watch and didn't like the bracelet. What did you end up doing?
I just suggested that they donate it.
How did they react?
They just looked at me like, why won't you exchange it for me? And I said, you know what, we just tried really hard to have a great party, and I think it's just a really great thing if we give back. And I left it at that because I wasn't going to exchange it.
So people like that, once you started this training, how did people already in the company react to that?
Okay. So, you know, at the time, I think when we were launching our branding and our new training, we had about 200 employees. So we heard a lot of, well, that's different, and we've always done it this way, which we know is the 6 most expensive words in business. We've always done it this way. Okay, we got to evolve. So we lost some people along the way. Some people really embraced it and really got better as a result. And then we were able to hire in some new people that really aligned with what we believed and what we wanted to achieve. Losing a lot of people that had been with us for a long time was really hard. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to what we believe in. Are we going to work together? And is it going to be shared success, or we're going to achieve it together? If no, then that's okay.
How do you know that this is was the right approach? How at the time were you willing to take that risk?
I don't know. Thinking back, and I was talking to my sister about it a little bit a couple days ago, and she says, when we were doing our training, like we were really focused on it, and like to have money for it, we actually had to take like 75% of our marketing budget and put it into training.
Wow.
So at the time, it was really risky. You know, I just believe it's really important because it's our responsibility to ensure that people are set up to win at their jobs.
Yeah.
I just feel a better gut feeling about it. I think it's it was the right thing to do. And even now we're still evolving it, but I just know in my gut that it was right, because I don't ever want to go to a holiday party and have people come up to me and say those things. And that just doesn't happen anymore, which is great.
And obviously if it's not happening anymore, it's because you've instilled those core values. And if you're going to work for your company, then people need to understand that, which was, you called it a risky move when it's 75% of your marketing budget, but probably the smartest move you ever made in hindsight, right?
Yeah, we're really glad.
Going through all this at the time, where are mom and dad in this whole picture?
Okay, so you know what? My mom is still really involved in the business. She is
To this day?
To this day, she is amazing. So, you know, a couple years back, my parents got divorced, so you know my father's no longer a part of the business. But you know, my mom is still very much involved, and you know, she still goes to the stores once every single year. She still does their inventory. And I think it's just more because she wants to see our people. So she goes once a year. She still works at the office. She does the merchandising. She's really amazing with product. And she's just a wealth of knowledge. She's done it. She's built it. She's lived it. So we learn a lot from her. But I think the most important thing that we do learn from her is if you're going to do something, do it with grace, do it with kindness, and just work really hard.
Okay, so mom is still involved.
Yeah.
And how old is she?
My mom just turned 60.
Oh, wow. So she's got many years to go. Okay, how does the dynamic of you and your sister work, and how has it always worked? Because that's tricky. I have 5 of them, and there's always, I mean, it's human nature. There's going to be challenges just on a human to human level, but when you mix in business, that's taking it to the next level. How have you made it work?
You know, I think what really works with my sister and I is we're strong at different things. She handles a lot of the financial aspects of our company. She's a very super organized, logical human being, where I'm a little bit different. I'm kind of the dreamer that knocks on everybody's door on Monday and says, I have an idea. And she's like, you have too many ideas. So the way that we make it work is we're respectful of each other, but we're very clear about what we do in the organization.
How did that happen? How early on in your partnership did that come to fruition? And was it a conscious decision? Meaning, was it your mom and dad who said this way back when? Or was it the two of you that said, we're going to go in different directions? Because did she join the company right after high school as well?
No, she actually, I joined the company right after, and I had been working there for about probably 5 years. And she was working at another company in Calgary, and I felt like I really needed her. We were expanding, we were doing a lot of things, we were growing, and I just needed someone that was so much better than me at the things that I couldn't do. And so I called her, and I had to kind of recruit her. You know,
she wasn't a quick sell.
She wasn't. Just a couple things. I mean, she was doing great at her job, but I think I think one of the biggest blessings in my life is having a sister by my side, and we were best friends growing up. So I think she said, you know what, we can do this, but there's a couple things that we really have to talk about first. It's, what do we want to achieve together? What are we going to do? So it was her. She was very logical about it before she came on board so that we could work together, but also still have our relationship. That was really important to her.
Okay. So you brought her on board, and then describe your roles now.
Yeah.
So you're the dreamer, and she's the financial.
Yeah. So I more work with the team. I work a lot with her training. I work a lot with the merchandise, and she's really focused on, the structure of our company, putting in processes, and she handles all of the finances. But she did the same thing that I did when she first started the company. She worked in every single department, and she learned every aspect of the business. And that took her a couple of years as well.
Who's the boss?
That's a great question. I think we both are. We make decisions together. So there's nobody that outranks the other person. We're really collaborative in our decision making. We don't agree all the time, for sure. But we talk about it. If we don't agree, we take a step back, we sleep on it, and then we have another sit down in the morning or in a couple days. But we have to both agree, or else it really doesn't move forward. And there are some things that I say, this is really important to me, and this is why. She may not agree, but she'd be like, okay, do it. I trust you. Just do it. There's something she wants to implement that I really don't agree with. But if she can tell me her reason why, I'm going to support her. At the end of the day, when we leave, we support that idea.
Okay.
Nobody's mad.
What are the benefits and the drawbacks of working with family?
So I'll start with the benefit. I don't ever feel alone. Sometimes I think when you have a business, it can, let's be honest, it can be really overwhelming. Sometimes you can feel really alone in what you're doing because everything comes back to you. Having her, I don't feel alone. And I always have someone I know I can call up and say, okay, this is how I'm feeling. Just help me work through it. The drawbacks is we are always talking about work. There are some times it's Christmas dinner. We always celebrate Christmas together, and we're talking about Christmas results. And sometimes we have to say, oh my gosh, can we just eat the darn turkey without talking about numbers?
That's so great.
Yeah.
So not only do you work together, how many hours a day are you still working?
We're always working, talking, texting. I don't know.
Really? So even though you work together all day, every day, in the same store?
We're in the same office building. So we work at our corporate head office. So it's we've been there for about 5 years now, but we work on different floors.
Okay.
So, the team that she runs is upstairs and my team is downstairs. So we kind of have that separation too, which is great.
So one of the things I need to ask about is just how you navigated change in your life. Do you have 2 kids?
Yes.
Is she married with children?
Yeah, she has 3.
Okay. So what about mat leaves and husbands and all of that? When you bring that into the picture, how does that work? Was everything always equal?
Like with my sister and I?
Yeah. So did you take equal amount of time off? Do your husbands get along? How does this all factor into business?
Okay. So we don't get a mat leave because we own our own business. So I think I took about a month at home. Okay. And I kind of worked from home, and then I started coming in the office, when the girls were 1 or 2 months, just a little bit here and there, and I would work from home. My sister and I think what's really great about us is we just don't measure anything. If you need extra time, you have 3 kids, take that time. If there's something you need me to do, I'll do it. And it's just been like that. And I think that's one of the greatest blessings and why our partnership works. We don't measure anything. It's not you get a day, I get a day. It's just what do you need, when, where, how can I help?
That's extraordinary, Chau. It's not like that everywhere. You know that, right?
I just feel really blessed. Yeah, I feel really blessed.
So advice in that area for people who are working with families, how to navigate it?
I think to set your expectations and what you want out of it early on. And I think it would be no different with family versus somebody that you work with that's not family. I think everybody wants to come to work and do a really great job. And I think if they need to know those expectations, and we need to be really upfront. Sometimes I think that when you're unclear, you're being unkind. People don't know what's expected of them. So I think if you have those upfront conversations from the get-go, it usually tends to work itself out at the end.
So when did kids come into the picture? How and what process of your growth journey? What was happening with the business when you decided to A, get married, and B, have your 2 girls?
Okay, so I've been married now for 12 years. And then my daughters are 7 and 5. So you know what? I think we just had kids when the time was right. You know, having the babies really taught me how to manage my time better, because there were some things I just had to get done and I couldn't procrastinate anymore. So I think we were still expanding as I was having babies. I looked at the world a little bit differently when I had my babies. I think during that time where we were focused on, you know, our vision and our mission and our values was during the time that I had my babies. And I thought, you know, I want them to think about those things. So it was really important to me to kind of set that example for them as well. And I should mention, my husband works for the company.
That was going to be my next question, whether your husband and her husband do.
So her husband doesn't, but my husband does. So at the time where we were expanding quite a bit, he's been with the company, I think now for about 7 years. And he handles our business development and new stores. And so anything with new business and new stores, he handles. So we all do different things. And I just really needed someone that we really trusted and could really do the job and help us expand. And he is an engineer by trade, so he's very super organized, so he can handle that. So it's really, really great working with him. And I couldn't do what I do at this company without his support. He supports me so much at work and, you know, with our family. So I'm really, really blessed that way.
I'm not going to lie, I'm blown away here, because it's not only that you and your sister working together, mom's still involved, but your husband, and that you can make it all work. Because so many couples will say when they venture into business together, it's challenging. It
is challenging. I don't want to sit here and say it's not. It is challenging. I think we do have to set those boundaries for sure. But I think,
how did you navigate them? Tell us some of the challenges that maybe you and your husband came across at the beginning, and then how you navigated them to where you are today.
I think we just have to really set boundaries, just like my sister and I did. So this is your responsibility. This is my responsibility. We try not to talk about it all the time at home, because it really can get into your home life, right? We really try to be intentional with, if we're with our children, we're with our children. We don't want to be talking about work with them all the time, right? Or talking about work in front of them. But it has, for sure, it is challenging to work with your family and your spouse as well. But I think through those challenges, I have that mindset of, you know, we're a team doing this together. And when you are a group of people, you just go so much further, so much faster.
Wow. Let's talk about some of the lessons like that you've learned throughout your entrepreneurial journey. And I said we dig into this. And one of them you talk about a lot, which I admire you so much for, is failure. Why do you think it's so important to tackle that and to talk about it openly and honestly?
You know, I think it's really important because it's really easy to get so hard on ourselves when we fail. And the thing with failure is that it's a given. Here's the thing. You open a business, you do anything, you're going to fail, and you're going to fail a lot. And you're going to fall down, which I did a lot, especially in those early years. But I think it's really important to talk about it, because that's where the growth happens. And that's where we learn the most about ourselves, is when we are down and we just can't get over failure. I think when we really take a step back and we look at it, that's where our growth happens. So one of the things that I failed a lot on earlier when I was, you know, leading a team in my early years at the company is I wanted everybody to like me. And I think it's important to talk about this because... So here's my thing. I measured my worth as a leader by how many people liked me.
Okay. I think that's very common, like you said. I hear a lot about that. So
yeah. So, you know, and I remember this, and I thought, okay, this is how I'm going to build a team. I'm going to do everything for them, and they're really going to like me. But where I failed was, well, then I ended up doing everything and
Yes.
I was not setting them up to do the job well. So I took a step back and it was like, okay, you don't need to like me because you're not going to like me anyways, right? Because I'm not helping you win at your job. So let's have direct conversations about what we expect. What is my involvement in how you're going to grow and how you're going to be amazing at your job? What's your expectation? And it got better from there,
Okay. What are some of the best practices that you have implemented in your life and business to help you navigate the busyness? Like that's a lot you have on your plate.
Okay. In my personal life, one thing that is really non-negotiable to me is the practice of gratitude. And I think everybody talks about gratitude and we know how important it is. We hear about it all the time, but to do it every single day is a total game changer. It just changes our mind from saying I have to I get to. And there's something that is so powerful about that. So at our office, every single day, I wanted an open door policy for my office. So my office is a glass wall and we turn that wall into a gratitude wall.
Oh my gosh.
So every morning before we get started with our day, our team writes down just one thing that they're grateful for. And that's how we start our day. And that's made a huge difference. And I'm really intentional about that.
How has it made a difference? What have you noticed?
People are just happier. When you start off your day with the attitude of gratitude, we don't complain as much. We are grateful when little things come along. So it's just really made a difference in terms of our culture. And then every single day, someone in our office just, wipes down that wall and we start again every single day.
That's great. I might rip off that idea from you. I love it.
It is awesome. And I practice that at home with my kids too.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Before they go to bed, I just quickly ask them, what are you grateful for today? Could be anything. Could be for their fruit roll up. They could be grateful, that I let them have ice cream after dinner, whatever it is, just so that they get into the habit. And one of the other things that has really helped me, because we all learn a lot of things. We all want to invest in ourselves and we go to conferences and we spend our hard-earned money. I believe that everybody works so hard for their money and we go to conferences and we go to seminars because we want to learn and we want to invest in our own personal growth. But what would happen to me is I would go to conferences, I would write down all these notes and have all these ideas and I wouldn't execute anything. Okay. So I would start feeling like, okay, I learned this, why am I not doing this? So I have this practice of every time I go to a conference or a seminar, I make a date with my data. So I schedule it in, I go through all my notes, I retype them, and at the end of anything, if I can put an execution point, I write it down. What am I going to do to put this knowledge into practice? And then I set it up in my calendar that I'm doing monthly check-ins, and it could be for 6 months to a year, depending on how much, to go back to see, have I executed this? Have I really applied what I've learned? Because everybody says knowledge is power, knowledge is power. It's actually applied knowledge that is power. What are we going to do with it?
That is such a great idea, because I'm guilty of that too. I always take millions of notes. And then they sit there and they collect dust.
Because life is busy. Yes. Life is so busy. We have kids and we have a business and we have friends and we have family, and then we just don't get to it. So I have to force myself to get to it.
Okay, let's talk about that quote, force yourself to get to it. There must be some highly organized plans in your day. Tell me how you're able to get this all done. Wife, 2 children, 25 stores, head office, owns a company. Help me out, Chau.
I need to help myself sometimes, but my Google Calendar is really help. I think that if you have goals for yourself, we have a motto at our company, and it is, when it's written, it's real. I write down things because
every day.
Every day, I start my day. Before I start my day, I write down the meetings and then the priorities, and then if there's anything that needs to happen, it goes into that calendar. That Google Calendar is amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's one of the best practices that keeps you highly efficient every day?
Yes.
Okay. What about saying no?
Okay. So I had a really hard time with this, especially when you used to want everybody to like you. You say yes to a lot of things. But so it comes back to this. So we learned a lot in 2018. I decided in 2018 that it was going to be the year of yes. So I said yes to almost everything. And we ended up as a company and, as a human being for myself, doing a lot of things, but I didn't do them quite well. So I learned and I grew a lot in that year, but I had to really scale back because I was getting burnt out and I was getting really tired. So, you know, as a company, we set goals. How are we going to achieve our vision? What is our goal? And we're really clear about that. And it's written. It's in a document, and it's written, and it's formatted, and it's binded. So we have that. Anybody in upper management has that. So we use that to make decisions. So if there's something that comes our way and it doesn't align with what we're trying to achieve in 2020, we just have to say no.
Okay.
Because we can't do everything, because we just won't do it well.
And that's the whole point, is when you do say yes to everything, something's going to fall through the cracks.
Yes.
Always does.
Yeah.
Advice you want to pass on to other entrepreneurs that are growing businesses? What are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned throughout your journey that we can all take away?
You know, I read something that was really powerful to me a couple years back, and it was, the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's just greener where you water it. So I find that if you want to do something, it's not going to be easy, but you have to focus on that one thing, because as entrepreneurs, we always want to do everything. We want to do 10 things, but it doesn't get done. So I find that where you put the effort is where you see the progress. Okay. So if there's one thing that I want to focus on, I focus on that until I can, and I see it as a rock, until I can move that rock, I'm going to focus on something else to really get it done and get it done right.
Okay. And any other challenges or mistakes, as we talked about that you see other businesses make along the way, that if you could weigh in with your opinion, you would say maybe do X instead of Y?
I think one of the challenges that we still have in our business is really being consistent, right? It's consistent with everything. And as we grow and we have 25 stores in those 4 provinces, you know, things kind of get missed. So I think that if I were to look back, I would say put communication as a focus in talking to our people and getting that message out. Because if the message doesn't get out and you're implementing your strategies, it's not going to get done because they don't understand the why. So now when we implement something new, in our memos, we have memos in our office, our first line is the why. And we explain why we do things. And once we started doing that, we had much more buy-in.
Oh, that's powerful. That's really powerful. Great takeaway there. Now, are you still in growth mode? What's the whole goal here, Chau? What's the dream?
You know what,
'Cause you're young. You're what? How old, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't mind. I'm 37.
37, okay. Mom of 2, 25 businesses. And I always say, age is just a number, but that's an extraordinary achievement at your age.
I think we will still grow. When it comes to opening stores, we want to be really smart and strategic. We will grow if the opportunity is right. Absolutely. We do, we possibly have one store that will open this year. I can't say too much about it, but we're excited about that. I think the dream is, at the end of the day, it just comes back to the customer experience. So our vision was always, and it comes back from the roots, right? How we were able to grow the business from one store is because customers had a great experience. And the experience wasn't even in English, but it happened. And so my sister and I, our dream is always that anybody could go into any store in any city or province and have a great and happy, memorable experience, because customers, they work really hard for their money. And whether it's $5, $50, $500, they still deserve that same experience. So that's our dream and vision.
Can you define that experience? Because everyone can see it differently. What makes your customer experience special at Paris Jewelers?
Well, when a customer comes into the store, say, for example, it's a guy and he is thinking about proposing to the love of his life, and he comes in the store and he says, I'm looking for an engagement ring. What needs to happen is, congratulations, tell me about her. Tell me about your story before we even start talking about product.
Wow, tell me about your story. That's beautiful that you start there. Okay. Yeah. And you dig in and you get to know them.
Yeah, because if we don't, I think that if we don't know them and we don't know the person that they're shopping for and what's important to them, we don't have the right to show merchandise. What about this? What about this? What about this? That's what you're going to be doing, and that's not a great experience.
How are you raising your children in terms of, are they the same as you were raised, and the values that you want to instill in them that you were brought up with?
Okay, that's a great question, Carrie, because I do struggle with this. I feel like, to be totally honest, I grew up, we didn't grow up with, a lot of the fancy things in life. And I think that really shaped us and made us grateful. They have a little bit of a different life. They go on a lot more vacations than we ever did.
Right.
They do have those birthday parties. So we do try to instill it in them. We try not to overdo it. Sometimes I do feel that it's hard. And, my mom's a huge part of their life and she shows them kindness and grace and gratitude. But man, does grandma spoil them.
Isn't that what grandmas are for, though, right?
Yeah.
But I get it because the struggle is real, and we struggle with that with our children all the time. How you handle that, because they do have way more than we ever had.
They really do. So I think a couple things that I do with my kids. I love to craft and make cards. Oh my gosh, that really makes me happy. So instead of buying gifts for people, they'll sit down and they'll hand make cards and write messages in them, and we give those out just to show them that things don't have to cost money. They need to come from the heart. So a couple things like that. But the struggle is real. I struggle with it. I welcome any advice on this.
Are you still working like your mom and dad did? Do you work like 12 hours a day, or do you do a solid 8, or what? What's the approach there?
I do work a lot. I think there's ebbs and flows. I think that we just expect during the holiday season, I am working a lot, and I don't have balance during those months, and we just know it. So I do still work really hard. I wouldn't say it's 12 hours every day, but it is more than 8, and that does happen. I have that in me. But I am trying to be more intentional. When we go on a trip, I'm trying not to be working all the time. I'll schedule my time on my vacation if I'm working, and I tell the team I'll be online from this time to this time if you want to get a hold of me. If not, I'll be offline. So a couple things like that I've found have really helped.
Any regrets in that regard in terms of spending time with your kids? Because I talk about that all the time when I look back on my CTV days. Although I loved every single second of my job, it came at the expense of my kids a lot of times. I was constantly prying my kids off my legs going to work, and it was tough.
Yeah, I do have regrets. During the time that we were really focused on our training and on growth, I do regret the time I didn't spend with them. I do feel like I missed out on a lot of things, right? So absolutely, I look back and I'm so blessed and grateful for my job. I'm trying harder to be more intentional when I'm with them, to really be with them in that moment.
I want to know just a little bit quickly about your girls.
Okay.
Activities, what are they like? Are they like you?
My girls, Layla's my 7-year-old, and she is the most thoughtful, kind, considerate little girl. She just started playing ice hockey this year.
Ice hockey.
She loves it.
Where does that come from?
It comes from my husband. He's obsessed with hockey. He plays hockey. He watches hockey. He listens to sports radio in the morning, but I love it. And she says, Mom, and she's on a girls and boys team, and she just loves it, and it's showing her to show up for her team, and she just loves it, and I'm really proud of her. And she does swimming. She also does skating. And my youngest, who's 5 years old, she's quite a character. She's got so much fire in her, and she does swimming and skating.
Is that it for kids?
You know what? Never say never. I feel really content right now, but my husband always says we'll never regret having another baby. So.
Oh, that's powerful that you feel that way. And are your kids best friends with their cousins?
Absolutely. We vacation together every year. We spend holidays, Christmas together, every long weekend together. We're at my mom's house most Sundays for dinner. They see each other all the time.
That's beautiful. As 2 powerful women running this company, I mean, I think, do you find challenges along the way because you're a female, or is there a message that you want to pass on to other female leaders to find their voice and to find their place and be powerful in that role? Because it sounds like you've really stepped into that power.
I want to be honest. There have been challenges because we've been female, and I think back to a time where it really hit me hard, and I was at the largest trade show and for jewelry, and it was a large convention, and I was on my way to meet with the VP of a company that we were about to partner with to do business with. And I was there for my appointment, and I asked somebody who was working there, what's your booth number? I wanted to make sure I was at the right place. And he looked at me and he said, I'll give you the booth number if you give me your phone number. And in that moment, I took a step back and I just asked him again. I said, okay, so I'm Chau. I'm from Paris Jewelers. I have an appointment with your VP. I just want to know if I'm at the right place. So he said, yeah, you're absolutely at the right place. So I had to think about it. I had to think about, okay, well, this is not right. Absolutely, it's not right. So what am I going to say when I have a meeting with this VP? So when I sat down, I told him what happened, and I wanted to stand up for myself and stand up for anybody else that could have happened to.
Good for you.
And I said, you know what? This is what happened, and I'm going to let you know that that's not acceptable to me. I don't want to be treated like that. I'm in no place to tell you how to run your business because that's your business, but I'm going to let you know that that's not acceptable to me because I know that what we allow is what's going to continue. And I think that we need to say something. I was not disrespectful about it. I just said, this is what I stand for, and this is what I'm going to accept and what I'm not going to accept if we're going to do business together.
Wow. Did you handle that with grace? How did he respond?
He was mortified. He was absolutely mortified. I mean, and he said, absolutely, we'll have a conversation, we'll take care of it. And that's what I needed to hear to continue to have that meeting.
Good for you for embracing the power of your voice and the way you did it. There's huge learning in that. Thank you so much for sharing that story with us. Did it happen throughout your career?
You know what? Sometimes it happens where I think that, when you're dealing with other companies, they feel like they can maybe charge you a little bit more. That's happened to us as well. And then we talk to our friends in the industry and we're finding things out. So it does happen. But I also think that more women are standing up, and there are so many fearless, amazing, courageous women out there, and they're sharing their story. And I think that just the time for us right now is amazing. So I think the more of us that get together and talk and share and learn and grow, it just makes everything better.
Amen, Chau.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I just have to ask one final question.
Okay.
I've got to ask it. What's it like just working with jewelry all day? I know you don't work directly, but God, that's got to be fun when you have the rings and the diamonds. I mean,
you know what? I think jewelry is so special, and not just because it's made of, diamonds and golds. I think it's so special because it represents somebody's story every time they put it on. And when you celebrate a special occasion with jewelry, it brings you back to that moment or that milestone, and it represents something every time you look at it. So I think it's more, I love being around jewelry, but it's more the story behind it that matters so much to me.
You are speaking my truth on the power of story and how it's applicable to all areas of your life. Where can people find you, Chau?
So I am, I am on Instagram, so they can, a little bit, so they can find me at...
Is Paris Jewelers on Instagram?
Yes, Paris Jewelers Canada. So that's on Instagram and on Facebook. Our website is parisjewelers.ca.
You ship around the world?
We should just ship within Canada right now.
Okay. Maybe one day?
Yeah, maybe one day.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you so much for being so vulnerable, for sharing your learnings and your failures, and reminding us how powerful our voice is, and some really powerful ways that we can use it and circumstances that really just elevates our life, our business, and our career. I have so much respect for you. I have for many, many years, and I feel so privileged today that you stepped into the inner circle with me.
Thank you so much. It was so great to be here, and I've learned so much from you, Carrie. You spend your time sharing other people's stories, and I think that's so amazing. Thank you so much.
Gratitude, Chau.